God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Yeah, yeah, yeah. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need.
All right.
Josie.
Anybody know how Tiger's doing, by the way? No? Okay. All right. Just check. No golf fans, I guess. All right. How are we all doing out there? My name's Reverend Michael McMorrow. I'm the spiritual director here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Granada Hills. So we welcome all who practice their beliefs in faith and love. And we have a little thing that we do here now. Locals, take it easy on the new people. But we do a little thing called hugs and handshakes. So let's just meet and greet each other and say good morning.
We're gonna break out the hats and hooters when Josie comes home. We're gonna rev up the motor scooters when Josie comes home. Instead, we're gonna park in the street, sleep on the beach and make it. Roll down the jam till the girls say when. Lay down the law and break it when Josie comes home. When Josie come home so good, she's the pride of the neighborhood. Joe, would you love to scrapple? She'll never say no. Shine up the battle apple, we'll shake 'em all down tonight. We wanna mix in the street, strike out the stroke of midnight, dance on the bones till the girls say when. Pick up what's left by daylight when Josie comes home. When Josie comes home so bad, she's the best friend we ever had. She's the raw flame, the live wire. She prays like a woman with her eyes on fire.
Right here.
Maybe you should have changed that when Jamie comes home. That would have worked. Yeah. All right, so as we batten down the hatches in the back and allow the chatter to, we're going to invite our presider up, our board president, Andrea Recht. So give her some love. All right, and we're all going to take a deep, conscious breath. Exhale. Let's use that breath to anchor us in this eternal now moment as we come together for our call to service, which we call lighting the flames of faith. And we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here this morning. So as we light the first candle, it's for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the second candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the third candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. The fourth candle we light for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. The ninth candle we light for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And the 10th candle we light for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of Spirit in their lives, and for the space we hold for them here at our center. And as Andrea lights the healing candle, please put silently into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experience the healing flame of God's eternal love.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and I see there is only love. there is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
So how grateful I remain for this wonderful opportunity to remember that there is only love. There is only love, there is only God, there is only wholeness and peace and joy. That's all there is, because God is all there is, and God is all these things. How grateful I am to know that this presence, this infinite intelligence, this divine love expression is everywhere, just being itself. And because it's everywhere, I know that it's right here, right where I am. And I know this same truth. I know that it is blessed, and very blessed indeed. I know that each of us leaves here feeling shifted and lifted, that we are changed forever, just by virtue of being here and sharing this experience together. So I declare that it is all good, it is all love, and I simply allow it to be. Please join me in affirming this by saying, and so it is. So good morning, everybody. Welcome here today. I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to have spiritual community. It's very important to me to have a place that I can come to and lean into the consciousness of it when I forget, because I'm a practitioner and I forget because I'm having a human experience. So I get to come here and remember by listening to the word that Reverend Mike shares, by the beautiful music. I get to remember. So when I took my relicensing oral panels recently, one of the panelists suggested to me that I spend some time in spiritual practice, moving from my head space to my heart space. So I took heed to that, and I try to incorporate practices that will facilitate moving more into my heart space. So there's a teacher that I like to listen to named Tara Brock, and she has a website, and he's fumbling with it, and he can't get it open. And is becoming increasingly frustrated, and eventually he simply gives up. And when they open the cage and let him out, he says to the gentleman who locked the cage, "By the way, sir, I've never seen quite such a sophisticated lock as that. Can you tell me about the lock?" And the gentleman said, "Well, the truth of the matter is it's a very ordinary lock. And in fact, I didn't even lock the cage." So the lock was open the whole time, and for me, it was a wonderful metaphor about how I can become a prisoner of my thinking. I don't know if any of you ever spend any time at all trying to solve problems that, well, I can't talk about you, but let me just say that sometimes I catch myself trying to solve problems that I don't even have. Building on resentments about things that don't even affect me. So Tara Brock goes on to say that we race around trying to solve problems, figuring things out, worrying our way through, and the busier we are, the more we lock ourselves into a stressed out and confined state. I related to that. And I'm grateful for spiritual community so that I don't have to live there. I'm grateful for spiritual practices that allow me to recognize I'm going down the rabbit hole. And I have tools to bring myself back to truth. Yes? So there's a Harvard study that was done some years ago. And it's a study on wandering mind. And the study showed, and you can look it up, Harvard study on wandering mind. Just Google that and you'll find the study. And it showed that 47% of our waking hours are spent thinking about what isn't going on. And not in a creative way, but in a fear, doubt, and worry way. And that this kind of wandering mind leads to unhappiness and contributes to aging. So I don't want to go there. So here's what Ernest Holmes says. What the world needs is spiritual conviction. And Reverend Mike talked last week about spiritual contagion. What the world needs now is love. Oh, that's Dusty Springfield. What the world needs is spiritual conviction. And further, he says that to hold one's thought steadfastly to the constructive, to that which endures, and to the truth may not be easy in a rapidly changing world, but to the one who makes the attempt, much is guaranteed. To have an inner realization of the presence of perfection within and around about. So that's what I'm trying to do. Please join me in that. Thank you. Blessings.
Good morning, everybody. Pleasure to see you. Please welcome David and Ken are sitting down in the front two seats up here. It's the only time it will ever happen, and they're really upset about it. Yes, yes. I'll do my best. You let me know. Please, I would like to thank our backup singers. Please welcome Jerry Reike, Angela Carroll Brown. We are very, very lucky to have a fantastic musician, great singer, great songs today. He will be selling his CDs. Please show him support. He'll be in Sparks Hall afterwards. Please welcome Mr. Jamie Lula.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone. Oh, man. Lord, we don't need another mountain. Boy, we could do that, too. Oh. Reverend Mike's going to rock your socks today, just a heads up. There's a healing going on, yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a healing going on. There's a healing going on. Let me walk to the banks of the river of love, where the current runs deep, baptized in the one, where there's no separation and the light is all we see. Honoring all our differences, and love will set us free. Oh, oh, Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I said, oh, you rock my of the past. It's time to re-qualify. Let's not forget, but learn to forgive. God knows we gotta try. It's my responsibility to heal the wounds in me. Compassion, faith, and hope, and love, and truth will set us free. Oh, oh, Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. I said, oh, Father God, there's a healing going on. Mother, Father, God, there's a healing going on. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I said, oh, you rock my soul. I said, oh, you rock my
feel the healing, right? I feel it. I'm healed. Never mind there's a healing going on. The healing has taken place. I'm healed. That was wonderful. Thank you, Jamie. I heard Jamie for the first time probably 30 years ago, I think. Seriously. He's not that old, but I am. So I'm going to highlight some announcements. There's a practitioner meeting today at 12:30. This week, our Wednesday night meditation Get Real and Heal hour is canceled because it's the 4th of July. Did I say happy 4th of July? If I didn't, let me say it now. Happy 4th of July. There are some wonderful events coming up, and details and sign-ups are in Sparks Hall. But first and foremost is the Write It Down, Make It Happen workshop with our own Reverend Dr. Maureen Hoyt. That starts July 11th, the Wednesday after the 4th of July, and it goes through August 29th from 7 till 9. And it's about manifesting your dreams, I believe. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful workshop. So please sign up for that in Sparks Hall. There's also a Sangha ethics workshop coming up. It's going to be 3 Wednesdays, starting also July 11th. That'll be a full day for some folks. Morning here for the ethics workshop, and then come back for the Maureen Hoyt workshop. So the ethics workshop begins July 11th and goes 3 Wednesdays at 9:30 in the morning. Divine Dining #1. Is Marcy here? Yeah, Marcy's here. So Marcy is hosting a barbecue and pool party on Saturday, July 28th from 2 to 6. It's limited to 25 prepaid people. So if you want to attend that, if you've signed up for it, give her some money and you'll be on the for sure you're coming list. Summer Tai Chi with Nancy Shriver is back there. Say hello, Nancy. She's going to be doing 4 Wednesdays. Wednesday again, wow. 4 Wednesdays of Tai Chi beginning August 1st at 9 till 10. I suppose it'll be in Sparks Hall, Nancy? Okay, great. And then, we're inviting Christine Velasquez back for a mindfulness workshop. She did this once before. This might be part 2 of that, although part 1 is not mandatory that you attended. So that's going to be on Thursdays, 8 Thursdays, beginning August 2nd through September 20th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. And more details about that will be coming up. So please sign up in advance for workshops so that we know how many books and materials we need to have available for you. So thank you for your attention to the announcements. And if you'd like to stand up, we will do the Declaration of Principles, which are in your brochure and will also be up here. We believe in one universal spirit manifesting through all, natural and incarnated in us. We believe that the universal spirit is personal to and reveals itself through everyone who recognizes its presence. We believe that our faith operates upon a law of mind which automatically manifests in our experience according to that faith. We believe in the unity of all life and in the immortality of the individual soul forever expanding. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the givingness of life to all. Please remain standing and we'll sing together. All right.
Well, I got up this morning singing, God is so good. Well, I got up this morning singing, God is so good. Well, I got up this morning singing, God is so good. Oh, my God is so good to me. Yeah. Feeling good down in my soul. God is so good. Feeling good down in my soul. God is so good. Feeling good down in my soul. God is so good. My God is so good to me. Well, I got up this morning singing, God is so good. Well, I got up this morning singing, God is so good. Well, I got up this morning singing, God is so good. My God is so good to me. Yeah, yeah. I'm feeling good down in my soul. God is so good. Feeling good down in my soul. God is so good. Feeling good down in my soul. God is so good. My God is so good to me. My God is so. My God is so. My God is so good to me.
Oh, Daryl, I saw you rocking out there. That was good. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. All right, so I would like to start our talk off this morning by saying Happy Independence Day, because I think it is an important day in our movement, the New Thought movement, and I'll get into more of that in a little bit. And today is July 1st, so in keeping with religious science centers, through Centers for Spiritual Living, I should say, we are working with our July theme, which this month is around healing is a revelation. Healing as a revelation. And so in this way that Ernest Holmes has written that the practitioner knows at the center of man's being there is an absolutely perfect life. And do we understand that we're all practitioners? Yes. Right? Because we're practicing this teaching, right? Right? So if you practice guitar, then you are a practitioner of guitar. Yeah? All right. Okay, so the practitioner knows at the center of our being that there's an absolutely perfect life, a complete wholeness, and a deathless principle. And that our work then as practitioners is to mentally uncover this ever-present reality, this changeless and eternal perfection. So there is that within us, a pattern of perfection. For the divine is within us. So this is what we teach. Now, it's an interesting proposition to me, this being this week celebrating our Independence Day as in America. It's an interesting proposition to consider that the science of mind teaching may never have materialized had it not been for the American Revolution and the subsequent government that emerged out of that. And really, if we're paying attention at all, it's still emerging and evolving from that vision statement from 1776. And the Declaration of Independence is a vision statement for this country. And that's why, even though I'm a big proponent of separation of church and state, it is one of the reasons why we do have an American flag in our sanctuary. Because I think there is this tie to the principles that have been proclaimed in this Declaration of Independence and for what this flag represents. For one of the features, so if we think back to that time, we were subject, the people who lived here were subject to authoritarian rule. Now we can really go down the rabbit hole and talk about the people who were here before and so forth, and not to minimize that, we'll stick to the mythology of the American story. And I mean that in the high, mythology is about a story that underscores a greater underlying truth. It doesn't mean that it's false. Do we understand that? Okay. So, So we were under authoritarian rule. That's what you call a monarchy. Right? So whether it's the Church of England or the state as religion, it's still authoritarian rule. And that authoritarian rule, by the way, expressed itself up and through at least the 70s, maybe the 80s, in Northern Ireland, when you had to belong to the Church of England in order to get a job in the Union. That's what that stuff was all about. Just saying. So, authoritarian rule, let's get rid of that. And that's not to say that at this time there was not a distinctly Protestant slant to the culture that at that time informed the framers of the Declaration of Independence and later the nascent American government. And within that culture then there is a bias. There is a bias of Judeo-Christian thought, of Western thought, which also has within it a bias of Greek thought. And these guys knew all this. These were very well educated guys who studied the classics, who studied, Plato and the Aeneid of Virgil and all these other things to inform. And they had this Christian belief system that informed the ideas of the rule of law and the Ten Commandments and love your neighbor as yourself. Right? So it's not a bad thing. It's just an observation. Now, why is this important to the New Thought movement? Well, it's because the New Thought movement moved consideration of spiritual matters from a salvation model that held that man was separate from God and that the only way that we could achieve eternal freedom was to appease the Godhead by keeping commandments and laws and so forth. But the main thing was that sky God up there, man down here. Separation. And so New Thought said that what if we are one with the divine? What if God is right where we are? And in fact, there was a whole movement at this in the 40s, which ended with which then emerged the transcendental movement, and then out of the transcendental movement came New Thought teachers, right? Who thought, what if God really is all there is? Both systems hold that. But what if that is the basis of the philosophy? What would it look like then? Now, in this consideration, all manner of things demonstrated themselves, not the least of which is that women emerged as teachers and leaders in, up until then, a heavily male-dominated system. Even though, Emerson was male. But he was probably one of the first feminists at the time. But you had Mary Baker Eddy, Emma Curtis Hopkins, Myrtle Fillmore, Nona Brooks, and a bunch of others that I, don't remember. Right? But before them, Alcott and Browning and other women, right, who informed this whole consideration and this new conversation. And think about that, right? So you're in a culture that is distinctly a Protestant culture where it really is, and I don't mean any disrespect when I say this, but it really is kind of a cover your backside teaching, right? Because basically what you're doing is you're wanting to make sure that you get to the place where there's air conditioning and stay out of the place where there is none. And you want to stay off the back bench where all the lawyers and the contractors. Thought system, which really wasn't a new thought system. It was just usurped Greek. Neoplatonism. So the most significant question, though, so if we consider that God is all there is, that we are seats of the divine, that there is within us a divine spark that has never been violated, there is within us a pattern of perfection, then the first natural question that arises then is, if man and God are one, if there is a spark, a divine spark within all peoples, why is there so much suffering in the world? Why is there war? Why are there criminals, disease, famine, and etc.? And the simplest answer is basically that it is up to us, you and I, to discover and to uncover this truth of revelation, that we are one with the divine within ourselves. Now, as Andrea described, that's not always so easy, because there are a lot of actions within the human condition that make us think that there's not oneness but two-ness, that there's otherness, and that these distractions can drive us into ways of dividing up the world into little bite-sized pieces of separateness, to where there's no sense of unity within any of it. So what we know about this then, for the individual within this teaching, so if we understand and know and believe that the divine sits right where we are, right? That, as Ernest Holmes says, we cannot be, of course we cannot be all that God is, but all that we are, God is in some way. Right? That we may not be perfect, quote unquote, but there is a pattern of perfection longing to make itself known within us. And the only task really is for us to recognize and realize the truth of our being, and then to allow that to come forward, in spite of the world of conditions. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes that can be challenging. Right? So it's really easy when I get the new car and the house and the nice wife, and I'm physically healthy, and I can rip off a blues riff without having to think about where my fingers are going. Right? One of those optimal days. Right? God and I are one. Look what I'm demonstrating. Right? But then on the days when we lose a job, or he's left, or I have a health diagnosis, or we look out into the outer world and we see chaos and discontent. Where is the teaching in those moments? Well, it comes down, once again, to understanding and knowing that there is only one power, one presence, one source, one life, expressing in, through, and as all things, and that the only restriction put upon it is our thinking around it. The only restriction put upon it is our unwillingness to let that light out and to let it shine. So we know this to be so in the thinking of an individual, that for the individual there can be no circumstance in our life that cannot be shifted and lifted from its current reality to a greater reality of good through the use of mental focus and desire, coupled with the infinite power and presence of the divine acting as law, as the law of its own being, bound only by the nature of its own being. So in a very real sense, by using our mental faculties, using the power of mind itself, that the Spirit is creating all of life by making things the thing that it thinks about. And in the individualized sense, so are we. And in the collective sense, we are doing this together. And we can see that in easier ways. So if we consider the many different cultures, there's the World Cup going on right now, right? So the many different cultures of the world scattered around the planet. Those are demonstrations of race consciousness as communities. Yes? And there are also larger scale aspects of life, and race consciousness meaning human race, not race as in ethnicity, demonstrating itself in the outer world. So if we look out into the outer world and we see a bunch of chaos and stuff going on, what is that telling us? That God is not in the picture? Right? What it should be telling us as people of faith is that we have work to do. You know, Gandhi once said that if people, I think it was actually the Dalai Lama, if people just practiced the religions that they say they believe in, this whole thing would work itself out. So, race consciousness, the thoughts that we hold together, and within this collective there are all of the features of the individual human condition as well. All of its biases, all of its perceptions, and I don't think it's that hard to see that. So in this approach to religious thinking, we are not calling on a Godhead to come down from on high to fix it all, but rather we are recognizing that the infinite power and grace of the Spirit must express itself in, through, and as our life as individuals and our lives together. And our method of accessing that is spiritual mind treatment, recognizing our oneness in the divine, recognizing the power of our word that is impressing itself upon the mind of spirit itself, expressing as law, bound only by the nature of its own being, which is infinite. So when we look inside ourselves, right, there's a revelation of healing that we want to call forth. There's a revelation of knowing that the power and presence, that pattern and perfection is already within there, and that we need only align with that. That really what we're doing is allowing and calling that forth. And in the same way, we want to do that in race consciousness as well. We want to do that as the collective. So if we're not demonstrating in that way, what's holding us back? If we're not demonstrating that way together, what is holding us back? Well, sometimes if we have to get really honest about what really is in here, and what is in here and in our heart. What are our most deeply held beliefs and principles? That is what is informing our consciousness, whether it's as an individual or together. So in thinking of a particular group of people, in thinking about life and how it expresses, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. I think these words are very poignant in today's climate. These are the principles that are informing our opinions and our life beyond the yelling and the screaming and the social media and speaking in the tunnel of the echo chamber of our own opinions just being bounced back to us. That we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it's among these. That's not the only ones. Yes? So what I know about this is that I think that it's important. It's important that as people of faith, that we celebrate the idea of an Independence Day and the principles on which it was founded, and to understand that there is still work to be done. So we have this whole conversation that's going on in our country right now around immigration, around civility, how to be a part of all of that. And how does our spiritual practice fit into that? Right? Well, I think first we have to, what's standing in the way of it? I've been listening to Reverend William Barber. If you don't know this guy, check him out. He's quite brilliant. And he's talking about how we, those of us, the Anglo population, we're kind of freaking out with the blackening and the browning of America. Right? And we need to be, as Anglos, we need to be honest about that. And not to be afraid of it. Now, in Los Angeles, I kind of feel like it's preaching to the choir, because we've been doing that for a long time. And yet we still have that unconscious bias that is informing the ways that we make decisions, right? And that we have available to us a tool called spiritual mind treatment that allows us to heal those places within our consciousness that are not providing a platform and a field for love, power, equanimity, compassion, and love to come forward. Because that's really what we're being called to do here. To align with the vision statement, regardless of where we are on the continuum politically, and to recognize that there is a vision statement that is binding us all together as a people, and really the Declaration of Independence is not simply an American document, but it's a declaration of independence for humanity itself. This is what makes it great. Not flags at football games. The principles behind it. A vision by a group of men who wondered, what would it be like to be free of authoritarian rule? What would it be like to live free, where on the merits of your own efforts, to not be a member of the nobility? Because that's what America was up until then. You could be a complete screw-up, but if your family was titled in England, you would be a colonel in the British colonial forces. So we know we have work to do here. And so I wanted to share and close with this, because there's another thing that has happened in this month of July. 155 years ago, 87 years after the Declaration of Independence, there was a battle, the Battle of Gettysburg, in which 50,000 men were killed, wounded, or lost. In 1,000, that's almost as many as the Vietnam War in one day. Well, 4 or 5 days. One battle. And in November of that year, Abraham Lincoln visited this site because there was so much carnage there that it was practical to turn it into a cemetery. In fact, it's said that the stench stuck around the place for months. There was so much carnage. that Abraham Lincoln came there with a bunch of others, and he said this. He observed that 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, these are words we can know today. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. That we are met on a great battlefield of that war, and that we have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives, that this nation might live. That's both sides. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. In a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow, we cannot make holy this ground that the brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. And so here, for me, is a spiritual mind treatment within the Gettysburg Address. That it is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus so far nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. The time has come. The time has come for us to engage fully and completely with our spiritual practice and to the principles that we hold most dear. The principles of equanimity, compassion, of love and tolerance. By the way, the Tea Party could not have said these words. Bernie could not have said these words. It's not lost on me that the Tea Party emerged from the South. It's going to take something else. And people of faith are the ones who are going to have to lead the way. Just like they did in the first Reconstruction, as William Barber points out, just like they did in the second Reconstruction of the 60s, that what it was called for now is a third Reconstruction, from people of faith to stand up and to espouse, regardless of what side of the aisle that we are from, the principles that we say we believe in, and to demonstrate them fully and completely and courageously from the heart instead of the head. And if we do this, what I know about that, and what I know, because I have tremendous faith in these ideas. just as Ernest Holmes did. Ernest Holmes came through, this teaching came through. I mean, think about all the Depression, World War II, the atomic bomb, Japanese internment. He was one of the first people to, he had no place for discrimination in his church. So let's call our musicians up and take a deep breath. I didn't think I'd get choked up on that the second time. So let's just go within and just recognize and know and remember that there is only one thing going on, that there is but one power, one presence, one source, one life of God expressing in, through, and as this manifest universe that we know as our life. That each one of us today is stepping into a greater idea of that truth. That we are allowing our heart to be cracked open, to be broken open, to see the world in a different way. That we are allowing our thinking to be shifted and lifted in higher ways of thinking that embrace all of our brothers and sisters, that are inspired with new and dynamic ways of being that bring more people into the tent. That we know a possibility. No, we know more than that. We know that right now, there's a healing going on. And we call it forth now. And that we allow ourselves to listen to that which we are called to do and then to do it. We're no longer content to play small, but to step into a greater stage of our life. In consciousness, together. And so it is.
In my eyes, in my mind, in my heart and soul, in my life, I have been searching for something, but you were my dream. You're perfect, you're golden, your light, your love, you're perfect, you're golden, you're my life, and my love. When I breathe, when I swallow, caress I feel. When I listen, ooh, I hear the most beautiful music out of nowhere. Oh, you're perfect, you're golden, your light, your love, you're perfect, you're golden. la-di-di-di-di-di-di. When I'm sad and dark, shallow and in doubt, when I'm trying my best to put one foot in front of the other, oh, you're perfect, you're golden, you're the light of my life, you're my love from forever, and your reflection, I'm perfect. So I'll keep looking at you to keep witnessing my perfection, and you as me. And all the angels sing, you're always there, you never leave, you're holding me, you set me free, you're guiding light, your empathy, your confidence to express in an me. You're perfect, you're golden, you're the light of my life, you're my love from forever, and your reflection, I'm perfect. So I'll keep looking at you to keep witnessing that I'm perfect. I'm golden. You're the light of my life. You're my love from forever, and your reflection, I'm perfect. So I'll keep looking at you to keep witnessing my perfection, and you as me. Oh, come on, y'all. And Chloe sang out loud. Come on, let me hear you sing. One more time. Check it out. You're perfect, golden light, my love. Sing it if you know it. You're perfect, golden light, my love. Sing it if you don't even feel it. You're perfect, golden light, my love. Turn and sing it to your neighbor. You're perfect, golden light, my love. Sing it to another neighbor. Come on. You're perfect, golden light, my love. Put your hand on your heart. You're perfect. Yes, you are. Golden light. My love. Let's sing it to ourselves one more time. You're perfect. Golden light. My love. Is there anybody that's not feeling this today? Anybody that woke up feeling less than perfect, less than golden, less than the light of the infinite presence of love that indwells us all? Stand up. Let us sing for you. Be brave and stand up. As we outreach our hand to these individuals who are not knowing the truth of their essence right now, we just sing your perfect golden light, my love. One more time. Your perfect golden light, my. And to that infinite presence of love within us we sing, your perfect golden light, my love. And so it is. Give it up for the band.
That was pretty good. All right, so as we prepare our gifts for the offering, we'll ask our ushers to come forward.
Spirit gives through me, Spirit receives through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me. Spirit lives and breathes through me. Spirit gives through me, Spirit receives through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me. Spirit lives and breathes through me. Spirit gives through me, Spirit receives through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me. Oh, Spirit lives and breathes through me.
So just going within for a moment longer, recognizing and knowing that the gifts presented here this morning are a demonstration of consciousness that knows and knows that it knows that God is our source, our substance, our supply. And so from the generous heart of the individual from which these gifts have been presented here this morning, we, representing the heart of this community, accept these gifts with deep appreciation, love, and respect, as we know they go forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless not only this Center for Spiritual Living and its vision and mission, but the lives of each one here this morning, the lives of anyone connected to this center in any way, that we extend this blessing to our friends in this community of Granada Hills, our city of Los Angeles, our state of California, our United States of America, all of its churches, temples, mosques, schools, universities, the people who attend them, the people who support them, for our planet as well, that we know that all of it is expressing from the very mind of the divine itself. And to the extent that we know this to be so, to align and to allow that revelation to come forward, we see it demonstrating. in all ways, great and small. This lifts our hearts. We experience power and grace of the divine that propels us into ways of spiritual living that lift ourselves and others. And for this, we are truly grateful. We acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. So please help me thank lovely Rita and Miss Chloe. We're going to check in with our kids real quick, and then we'll scooch on out of here. Come on up here. Tell them who you are.
I am Luzette.
Luzette, so maybe you remember when she was like this, but anyway. Yes. So, what'd you do back there?
So we made a pinwheel, and we put some stuff. We wrote what we are thankful for and that we want to happen. That is positive.
Great. It's not easy standing up here, is it? Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, we thought that maybe we'd do some patriotic pinwheels that put our wishes out, sort of like Buddhist prayer wheels that would spin around and around and around and carry our wishes out. Things like, we thank you for your service, peace, we remember you, hope, freedom, those sorts of things. So.
Very nice. All right, thank you. And thank you, teachers. Thank you, parents, for getting your kids here. Thank you all for being here. Have a happy 4th, and try to, have some fun. Where's our, oh, here we go. Andrea is going to pray us out. Let's ask our practitioners and ministers to circle the room, and see you next week.
So once again, I invite you to join me in consciousness as we turn within and remember that we are one. How grateful I am for all of these wonderful reminders that God is and God is all there is, that we are a divine expression of it. I declare and accept that in this service we have been cracked wide open so the light of love shines inward and outward to all that we come in contact with. I declare that each of us leaves here shifted and lifted, that we are rebirthed, knowing that principle is not bound by precedent. We are made new today, that all things are working in our favor, that the universe is conspiring on our behalf, and that we are lifted in joyful realization that God is all there is. So I give thanks for this, blessing each of us as we travel outward from here to our next destination, knowing that this day, this life, this universe is blessed and a blessing. I give thanks for this, and I allow it to be. And so it is.
Please stand for the peace song. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Thank you.